Hello, everyone. Merry
Yeah,
Christmas.
Merry Christmas to
Happy
everybody.
holidays. We're talking. This is the Movie Night Society again with uh, some more Christmas stuff. We talked about uh, what did we talk about? We talked about Elf and Better Watch
Better
Out,
watch out. Yeah.
and now we're talking about the Santa Claus. I don't know. Would you say it's like a Christmas classic or
But
more of a
yeah,
like?
I think it's kind of a classic for me. And I think a lot of people who grew up with it, us millennials probably consider it a classic.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
Uh, it's got 2 sequels and a Disney Plus show.
yeah, that's currently airing.
It's funny because I feel like I've seen this movie before, but I'm not entirely sure because I'm pretty sure that I've actually watched the 3rd movie. I don't know why.
Hmm,
Uh, I might have even seen the 3rd movie in, like, theaters or something. I don't even know.
I did. I know I did. I'm not a fan of the third movie though.
I don't remember anything about it other
Yeah, you're
than
not.
Jack Frost is in it or something?
Yeah. Hmm.
Something weird like that.
Yeah, Jack
Uh,
Frost is in it.
um Yeah, so this is like a childhood kind of movie for you, a nostalgic movie.
Now, wait,
Uh,
do you remember who plays Jack Frost though?
yeah, Martin Short.
Okay, yeah. I was just wondering if you remembered who even played him.
I remember that movie more than this one, and I just watched it like a few days ago. Although I don't know if I should say I remember more from that movie because but I remembered more about it than whether or not I've even seen this one before.
I figured
Uh,
you saw all of them at least, like, growing up. Maybe you're just too young to remember them, but
yeah, uh,
could be.
yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. We're kind of said this before the review, but we're not sure if there's much to like dissect about this movie.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
really not. It's a pretty straightforward movie,
yeah,
and,
it's
it's like an hour and a half. I always think this movie goes by pretty quick. Doesn't even feel like an hour and a half to me. It feels like more like an hour.
I guess so. Uh, I had some issues with the movie, but uh,
Yeah,
I guess we'll get into
it's
that.
definitely not perfect. This is like a nostalgic classic for me, but I have problems with it too. But you know, I still watch it pretty much every year. But yeah, we can just kind of go through the plot if you want.
I guess so. Yeah, so it basically starts out with Tim Allen plays Scott something. What was
Calvin,
his last?
Scott Calvin.
Calvin?
Yeah.
That's right, Scott Calvin, and he's a businessman, he works at a toy company, uh, they're having, like, an office Christmas party, and then he goes back home, and, he's, divorced, and the wife comes over with, their kid to for the kid to stay over with him for the week.
Yes. Spend a little bit of time with his dad for Christmas.
Yeah, and, they kind of like the dad is kind of an asshole, I guess. I mean,
Yeah,
I
there's no
couldn't,
like
I
I guess.
couldn't,
He pretty much like is an a-hole throughout a lot of this
yeah,
movie.
I couldn't really tell from the movie if it was like trying to make him like an endearing asshole or just straight up asshole.
Kind of
Uh,
goes back and forth, I think.
it kind of does, yeah. Uh, I guess there was just certain points in this movie where I was sort of like, I don't know what to feel about these characters or like
There's
I'm not sure
really
how the movie wants me to feel
there's
about the
really not a
characters.
whole lot to like kind of feel because like the main characters, like the ones that are in it the most, you got Scott Calvin, Santa, you
Yeah.
got his Charlie, who probably has like the second most amount of screen time because a lot of the movie is kind of like about their relationship. Then you have like the wife and Neil, uh, the new husband to his ex, and
Yeah.
I guess like Bernard is like a recurring character throughout the movie. And it's kind of like mostly those five. Those are the characters you're gonna probably see the most. So
5 or wait, the family, the 4 in the family, and then who else?
yeah, and then Bernard, he's like in
Oh,
it
the
enough.
elf?
Yeah, then like kind of head
Oh,
elf.
okay. I thought Bernard was the the stepdad.
No, that's
Okay.
Neil. with the
Neil.
sweaters.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
the movie really likes to point out his sweaters for some reason.
yeah, for some reason.
Just like, haha,
uh,
yeah, funny sweater.
it's like, yeah, it's Christmas, whatever. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's just like I like that. That's just like a recurring joke. There's somebody decided like, hey, this character, his sweaters. Let's just point out he wears funny sweaters because that's mostly like all you're gonna probably remember about him.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
Uh,
there's not really like a whole lot to like the other characters. It's really like I think the biggest two characters that you're probably gonna think about after the movie is just Santa himself and Charlie. Because like I said, the movie's mainly about their relationship.
yeah. Um, yeah, so they're kind of they're together for Christmas Eve, and he tries to like cook dinner and it goes wrong, like
Yeah.
he
I,
burns the turkey or
I'm always
whatever.
conflicted with if this movie wants us to think that Scott is smart or stupid because like
That too.
he burns a turkey and then he asks his elementary son how to call 911. It's like, are you?
I thought that was him asking whether the son knew how to call 911. Am I
Yeah,
wrong?
no, that is.
Okay.
He was asking his son like, oh, how do you dial
Okay.
911? It's like, yeah, 911. It's like, how do you not know that? How
Oh
do you
no,
need to
no,
ask a
I
child?
I meant like I thought he was asking the son whether the son knows, like, like, do you know how to call
I
911?
don't know. Like, I
I
always
like
interpret
I
it
don't
like
know.
he did not know how to call 911, so he has to ask Charlie.
Okay,
That's kind
I
of how
guess
I
so.
always like
Well, in
interpreted
that
it.
moment, it's like they hear someone on the roof, and it's sort of like this movie kind of like just goes by a little too quickly, in my opinion. Like that scene should have been played out more like a little bit tense, because it's
Yeah,
like, oh,
they could have
someone's
done
on
more
your
of that.
roof, you know, or something, and it's like, okay, well, like, sure, we know it's gonna be Santa, but like the characters don't really know that.
Pretty
So it's
much.
like,
I'll look around and see.
so like, yeah, he's like, oh, he hears someone on the roof, so he tells his son, like, you know like, you know how to call 911, right? If I thought it was like, if you need to, if something happens to me, do you know how to call 911? I thought that was what he was doing, but
Could
maybe
be.
I
It always just seemed to me like because like I said,
like,
sometimes
he's
like the
just
movie.
an idiot.
Yeah, well, it's like the movie sometimes has him like that. So I don't know. That's just kind of what I always thought in my head.
Yeah, it's sort of a
Like,
weird.
haha, it's wouldn't be like it's funny that he doesn't know how to dial 911.
Yeah, I
Could be like either way.
it's so weird that this movie, it doesn't really feel like it knows quite what it wants to do when it feels completely obvious what to do. Like,
Yeah,
make the dad kind of a jerk, and then he has to become Santa, and that's how he learns to be good, right?
yeah.
But and it is like that, but some of it feels a little confusing to me, or like it's not certain on like what they wanted, or I don't know. It was sometimes confusing to me. Like, am I supposed to be feeling like that this is him doing this, or like the magic Santa transformation doing this? I felt like the movie had like a lot of issues like that, where it's like, I don't know what is this movie trying to convey here? It was just kind of strange, but
Yeah,
um
I can see that.
yeah. Uh but yeah, so basically, like, yeah, the dad, like, uh he messes up dinner, and then I thought this was a funny joke when they go to Denny's,
And he's yeah.
and it feels kind of like too much like a Denny's plug, but okay. Uh like, they really hammer home that it's Denny's. Um like,
Everybody
hey,
loves
they're open
Denny's.
24 hours. Yeah, everyone loves
Oh, it's
Denny's. They're open
Denny's. It's American
24/7.
pastime. Come on, it's Denny's. I like
And
Denny's.
they go in, and like, uh there was like a line where they're like, yeah, he's like, oh, it's American pastime, and then they cut to inside the restaurant. There's just a bunch of like Japanese businessmen there.
Yeah.
Kind of funny. And then they go in, and uh the waitress or whatever is like, oh, like, you know where do you want to sit, or whatever. And then the kid's like, oh, my dad like burnt the turkey, and it's like, oh, okay, follow me. Oh no, she asked
Right.
him like, are you
Yeah,
with
that
these guys?
yeah, I'm like, "Oh, no, not with us." And then, yeah, she it's like,
Yeah.
takes him to the table, like, I guess, where it's a section, I guess, where dads have taken their kids
Yeah,
because they burnt the
that's
dinner
what
because
made
there's,
it
like
work for me. What like, they go there, and then there's just, like, these 2 other dads who, like, clearly, like, messed up Christmas dinner.
yeah, there's, like, one
I
guy,
thought
like,
that was
raises his
funny.
hand, and it's like you can see it in the cast.
Yeah, that was funny. Uh, and then, yeah, basically that kinda goes wrong, and then, like, they go back home, and he's trying to put the
Yeah,
kid to
because
sleep.
you can tell, like, pretty early on that Charlie's not really into spending time with his dad. He wants it to be over as best like, as fast as it can because he asks
Yeah,
his
he
mom to
doesn't.
pick him up, like, "Be here at sunrise." Like, he just his dad doesn't really try to connect with him or anything, so, like, it's understandable, like, why he doesn't wanna be with his dad,
Yeah.
you know?
Uh,
It's, like, pretty standard, like, strained relation between father and son.
yeah. Um, okay. I don't know. I wanna say this movie reminded me a lot of The Boy Who Saved Christmas, which is a movie that we love, that not a lot of people have seen, but more people need to.
More people should.
Yeah, I think it might have even come out at the same time as this movie, like, maybe a year before or
Well, let's see.
after.
This movie, the Santa Claus came out in '94. So is that when the
Okay, so it was after, but okay.
probably not much.
But yeah, it's just like it feels very typical, like, Christmas movie formula, like, oh,
Yeah.
dad's kinda
This movie
struggling to connect
definitely
with the
feels
kids and
like a '90s movie too, don't you think?
yes.
It's
Yeah,
definitely a product of its time.
definitely, like, some of the CGI, it really did not age well, but I
No.
can't really,
I think
you know.
yeah, the CGI did not age well, but I think the effects with, when Tim Allen kinda starts growing out the beard and everything more and
Yeah, that
the
was
kinda look,
pretty well
that looks pretty
done.
good. I think that
Yeah.
still held up pretty well. But yeah, the CG, especially, like, that first shot of when they look up at the roof and see Santa's reindeer and everything, that you can clearly tell that's, like, pretty bad CG now.
Yeah, there's a lot of CGI and, kinda green screening effects.
Yeah,
Um,
it hasn't aged all that great in terms of the effects, that's for sure.
no, and I will say I kinda felt that the movie looked a little drab visually, just the
A little bit,
color
yeah.
palette and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a little, like it's not very vibrant. It's
No,
very kinda, like, muted in its colors, which I think was
like
fixed for the sequels. The sequels, I remember, are a lot more vibrant in color. This one, not so much.
yeah, it almost feels like this was, like, a low budget movie that was almost, like, picked up by Disney or something, but I'm not sure what the history of this movie
Yeah.
is.
It's got a $22 million budget.
Really? Wow, okay. That's pretty high, I mean, considering, I feel.
Yeah, you'd think it'd look a little bit better with that budget, but
Like, I just, like, watched all the Chucky movies, and, like, the first 3 were all around 13,000,000, and they look pretty good. So I was a little surprised that I don't know, maybe, like I don't know what Tim Allen's career trajectory was, but I assume this came out after he was on Home Improvement, so maybe that was, like, you know,
probably, yeah.
some of the budget went to him,
Could be.
because he was, like, kind of a star, um, and I've never watched Home Improvement. I don't know if, like, the humor in this movie is, like, the humor in that, because like, I mean, we talked about Elf, and, like, that's Will Ferrell coming from SNL, into this movie, and, like, he is kind of playing characters like, kind of a character that is similar to stuff he did on SNL, so
Yeah.
I don't know how similar this movie
It's
feels in
probably
that
pretty
sense,
s I
but
I would I haven't seen Home Improvement either, but I'm willing to bet it's probably similar in that regard.
yeah, um, and, like, I don't know, Tim Allen's good in this movie. I
Yeah, I like his performance. It's not
yeah,
like anything amazing, but I do like his version of Santa, especially, when he has, like, the full appearance of Santa. A lot of times, this is, like, one of the Santas where immediately I think when someone says Santa Claus, like, his especially, like, appearance is one of the first that pops into my head. I think he looks really good with the full
yeah.
beard and then full outfit. It's like, yeah, this looks like he looks like Santa. So, I've always been, like, a fan of, like, this version of the character.
Yeah, and I guess we should get to the sort of main incident or like that starts the plot, which is yeah, they hear someone on the roof. It's Santa Claus, and Tim Allen kind of goes out and yells at him to get off the roof, and then the Santa
and
slips
and
and
dies.
dies,
This movie
which
kills Soft Santa.
yeah, which I honestly forgot what the premise of this movie was. So when that happened, I was like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, Santa dies. Like I think a lot of people
Like,
might kind of overlook that. It's like Santa dies in this
yeah,
movie.
and I was looking up images for the background, and like something came up that was like, oh, Tim Allen said the Santa Claus was originally supposed to be darker than it was, which is funny. Like all these Christmas movies that like
Always
become
supposed to be darker.
classic, yeah, it always seems like they're darker in writing than
Yeah, it's
uh
funny how that seems to work.
yeah. I mean, like even It's a Wonderful Life, like it touches on dark
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, this movie, it's like yeah, they just kill Santa
yep. Santa straight up
accidentally,
die. Yes, but
but
Santa still
still,
straight up dies.
yeah, which is a little weird. I felt like the scene played out a little too quickly again. It kind of felt like it was just trying
Yeah,
to get
what's
to
funny is like
the
it plays
setup.
out very quickly, and then like this Santa kind of dying, and then like Tim Allen takes over as Santa, and it's never really brought up again by the North Pole or anyone that Santa
Yeah,
like the Santa dies. Like
it
just
makes
like,
it seem
oh,
like it's a
you're the new guy, and we're just
yeah,
not
it
going to
makes
talk
it seem
about the
like
old
it's like a
guy.
regular occurrence or something.
Yeah, I guess this is just how you become the next Santa. Is like Santa must die or something, and then like somebody else just puts the coat on, and it's like that's it. You're Santa now.
I mean, like, what if someone learned that and like they just tried to kill Santa on purpose?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that just seem
Like,
kind of wrong about that, but obviously you're not really meant to think about that type of stuff
no, no.
because yeah, the movie doesn't address like any of that. But yeah, you can have a lot of kind of fun ideas with that concept. But yeah, the movie doesn't cover any of that. It just kind of all right, on to the next part.
Yeah, so Santa dies, he disappears and leaves the suit behind. And there's like a note that says like put on the suit and the reindeer will do the rest or something
Yeah,
like that.
they'll know what to do or something
Yeah, they'll know
along
what
those
to do.
lines.
And they climb up the ladder and get in the sleigh and then fly away and like they're they fly to the North Pole, right?
Well, first they have to like finish delivering the presents because like Santa wasn't even
Yeah.
done. And I do like some of the fun creative ways they use like Santa to get down chimneys and like they kind of are trying to address like, oh, what if you don't have a chimney and what about this and what does Santa do for this? And we kind of get to see how like this movie like would have answers to that. So
Yeah.
it's not those like some of those scenes like effects wise, especially like the one where he goes down like this really small like exhaust pipe or whatever it
Yeah.
is. That effect looks pretty cheesy, like something you'd see on Nickelodeon in the 90s almost. So it's like I guess it's supposed to be funny, but it just kind of looks cheap. But still, like I think some of those scenes are fun. He um is just kind of pissed off about the whole situation. So like there's this little girl who sees him, like she's sleeping down on the couch, probably like, waiting for Santa, and he's just an a-hole to her, pretty much. It's like, you want this doll? Go sleep. Yeah, some of that I thought was like pretty fun, like enough.
Yeah.
Those things like weren't too bad or anything like that. But yeah, then they go to the North Pole after like they're kind of done.
Yeah, and this really was I don't know if it's just like a problem with like maybe the restoration or something where the color looks like this, but it even when they get to the North Pole, the color doesn't really like pop or anything.
No,
It's
it
kind
really
of
doesn't. Like I said,
yeah,
this was definitely fixed in the sequels. I remember the sequels having a lot more color in the North Pole, and the North Pole looking
yeah.
a lot better um, than in this
Do,
movie.
do you even remember what the plot of the second one is? I feel like I might
I
have
do,
seen the
yeah.
second one.
The second one, he has to find a Mrs. Claus.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so we
I
get to
feel
see the
like I've
North
seen
Pole
that
like a
one.
lot more in the other movies. And this one, like the North Pole really isn't in it that much. So just kind of like there's things I like about how the North Pole looks, but the lack of color really helps. I don't know why they wanted a lot of the colors to be so muted in this. It would have been better, especially like you think Santa's the North Pole, Santa's workshop, it's colorful and bright and
Yeah,
cheerful. It's
like you
not,
start off in,
yeah,
like kind of whatever crummy looking office building, or not crummy, but just like drab looking, dull, like, and then you get to the North Pole and it should look very fantastical. I mean, kind of like the opposite of Elf, right? Like starts off
yeah,
in the North Pole, everything looks kind of
yeah,
nice and clean, and then they get to New York and it's like, okay, yeah,
yeah,
it's New York.
yeah. I
Uh
uh I do like how the North Pole kind of looks visually, but I always thought there was like kind of too much going on at the same time. Like there's no like structure or order to anything that you can see in the North
yeah,
Pole because it's just like people kind of like walking everywhere. It doesn't really look like the elves are working. It just looks like they're traveling everywhere. You know what I mean? Which again, I think
yeah,
was fixed for the sequels, where it looks more like Santa's workshop, where like you have like just a lot of tables and elves actually working. And this, it's really busy, and it's just kind of hard to tell like what the extras are kind of doing.
yeah. I'm curious. I didn't look up who directed this movie, so I'm gonna do that. But yeah, I agree. One thing that was kind of interesting was that the elves are just played by children.
Yeah,
Um, Kind of a neat idea. Uh,
I'm sure like hasn't other stuff done this before? Like I
I
can't think the
feel
Santa
like,
Claus is like the first one to have kids as elves.
yeah, I was like thinking like I don't know. I'm sure there's something, but why is Google not letting me just go to?
I
Hopefully my internet isn't going down or something. We're gonna keep talking. Let's see. Uh, yeah, I don't. So they basically tell him like, okay, you're the new Santa and all that, and then like they're like, well, next year you're gonna be Santa. Uh,
Yeah,
and
you got like 11 months to
they
get your
tell
life in
him,
order. Then you're due back here by Thanksgiving.
yeah. Uh, is there anything else that happened
At that part,
there? Or? Yeah, yeah. I mean, like anything major? I'm
no, unless you just like that's when like Bernard gets introduced into the story, which he's really not in it like too much, but I do like the character. I like how you think okay, he's like kind of the head elf it seems, and elves are usually like very cheerful and stuff, and Bernard just is like I don't have time for your bull with Santa with Scott. I always kind of liked that. But yeah, there's not like a whole lot else that happens. Like they kind of just go to bed and then wakes up the next day and it's Christmas and they're back in their house and everything. But we get to see that he still has like the pajamas that he was given, so it's like it wasn't a dream or anything.
yeah,
So that's kind of what happens there. Charlie gets picked up, and then like I one thing that was kind of like addressed at the beginning of the film is like Charlie is really into Santa and like believing in Santa and everything, and um, I think like his parents told him at the beginning Santa doesn't exist.
yeah. Which
And
I love this trope of the parents don't believe in Santa because they didn't get the gift they wanted as a kid.
yeah,
I it was funny. I was watching just to prep a little bit for this review. I was like, because I watched this like a few days ago because I was busy over the weekend, and like it was like I just like typed in the Santa Claus on YouTube, and like one of the first things that came up was the CinemaSins review, or like the everything wrong with the Santa Claus in 14 minutes or whatever. I'm like, okay, I haven't seen a CinemaSins video in a while. Whatever, I'll click on it. First of all, everything that they say is like basically a positive. They're like, oh, remember when Disney actually used to like care about their logo and like didn't like throw a bunch of stuff into it? I'm like, and then like you counted that as a sin? Like, what are you doing? But what the hell was I gonna say? Uh Someone in the comments basically said the same thing that I did. It was like, yeah, every adult in these movies that doesn't believe in Santa is like, I didn't get the gift I wanted as a kid.
so I stopped believing them. Yeah, obviously this movie is definitely full of tropes.
Yeah. But that
Clearly,
trope
yeah.
that trope is one that I like because it's always funny to me when they get the gift. Like what was Judge Reinhold's
Oh,
the
he did get a weenie
stepdad's,
whistle when he was 3.
yeah, a weenie, what, like that's the dumbest thing ever, but it made me laugh. Like
I didn't get that weenie whistle when I was 3.
Yeah,
when I
it's just a
stopped
whistle that's
believing.
shaped like a wiener dog, or
Yeah.
not a wiener dog, but like a hot dog.
I mean,
Uh,
I get like you're 3, so it's like, oh, whistle's cool, but I don't know, like what stuff like do you want as a 3-year-old? You know, like how do you remember that? Did it traumatize you? Is that why you
you were
turned out this
traumatized when you
way?
were 3 years
3
old.
to get a weenie whistle from Santa? Because like, why would you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then like what the mom wanted like a mystery boyfriend like board game or something like that.
Yes,
Like one of
mystery
those like dream
something.
phone type games or
Yeah,
something.
something like that.
Uh, it's like okay. Um, yeah. Uh, so basically, after they get back home and they wake up, basically, kind of the rest of the movie until the end is like him slowly becoming Santa, like it's
Yeah, it's just a lot of
the
scenes
Jeff
of him
Goldblum fly or something. Like
pretty
he's
much.
he's
Yeah.
slowly
A lot
transforming.
of it is just like slowly transforming to Santa and like basically Charlie trying to convince his dad. It's like, oh yeah, you're Santa. Like I know you're Santa. It's just like you need time to accept that you're Santa. And yeah,
Yeah,
that's really like a lot of the movie.
and I was kind of like I was like on the side of the kid because I was like, dude, at this point, like, how are you not accepting the fact that you're just Santa? Like,
Yeah.
you gotta accept it. Like at this point, there's no like working around it. You know what I mean? Or like
Yeah,
it would
it's
have been
like I
more interesting if he did try to find a way out of it or something like that. I don't know. Or like maybe then he could realize like, oh no,
yeah,
I actually
it's like
want
he
to
just
do
kind of
it.
it keeps ignoring the problem and hopes it goes away. It's like
Yeah, he
it's
keeps
not
shaving his
going
beard
away.
and it grows
Yeah, and he
right
just keeps
back.
yeah. Um and he like can't understand why he's gaining so much weight. It's like you're
Yeah.
transforming into Santa. But yeah, it's like a lot of scenes are just kind of dedicated toward that. And it's like, yeah, it just takes him a lot longer than it needs to for him to kind of like finally realize. Um
Yeah.
there's like I think there are some like fun scenes in there, you know, with the beard and everything. The makeup's pretty good. The scene where like the kids all want to sit on his lap during the soccer game, I thought is pretty fun. So there's like some good stuff, but it's like okay, like we get it
Yeah.
because
I'm
yeah,
trying to think of some.
that's like a good like middle of the movie is just kind of scenes like that, and
Yeah.
um, you know the parents getting more concerned with Charlie, like getting really into Santa and believing in the whole North Pole thing, and you know they like convince like Scott is changing his appearance to like make Charlie like him more and want Charlie to spend time with him over like the other two parents. So and they're growing like more concerned throughout the movie because of that. You know, it's you get it's understandable.
Yeah. Um, there's one scene where like uh Scott is like he's getting fatter because he's turning into Santa, and like he goes to a boardroom meeting, and I guess because his I assume because his clothes don't fit him anymore, he
Yeah,
goes in like a sweatpants and like a
yeah,
track what him sweatshirt whatever kind of
pretty
thing.
much. Yeah, just sweat clothes.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I'm sure
And
his
then
clothes don't fit him anymore, like you said.
yeah, and like everyone kind of looks at him like, what the hell? It's like, okay, it's funny. And then they're like ordering lunch or something, and what does he do? He like orders like a bunch of like kind of Christmassy
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, first he orders like a salad with no dressing or something like that. Strange. And then he gets like a cookie, a hot
Oh
fudge
yeah,
sundae, like piece of cheesecake, like a whole bunch of like sweets. And then if you're actually looking at the scene where it shows him eating, which also like doesn't it play like Jeopardy music? So it's like da,
yeah.
da,
I was
da.
like, why is it playing Jeopardy
I
music?
don't
Like,
know. It's like
what
that's
is going
funny
on?
music, I guess. But like if you pay attention to the table when he's like eating the sweets, it shows like the salad. He didn't even touch the salad. He just ate the
Okay, that's
sweets.
funny.
Yeah, it's like
I don't think I noticed that.
no, because it's like it's kind of subtle. It doesn't like make it really clear because it doesn't like show it like fully. It's not like it doesn't like just show like a scene of the salad or something. Like you kind of
It's
have to like
funny
catch
that
it
like they
quickly.
even
But
gave him the salad. Like,
yeah, but it's like if you notice it, it's pretty funny that he just eats the desserts because
Yeah.
Santa, he likes milk and cookies. He's just known for eating sweet stuff, so he pretty much just eats the sweet stuff, but he eats a lot of it.
Yeah. Um, and everyone's looking at him like, I don't
Yeah,
know what the hell.
understandably,
Yeah, it's like it's odd. It's odd behavior for him. And and then he like goes on about they're like pushing an idea for like some
yeah, Santa in a tank.
yeah, what it was like a toy though,
Yeah,
right? Like a
it's a
toy
toy
tank, right?
yeah, because it's a toy company.
Yeah. So like
Yeah,
which I think they could have done more with too. The
they
idea
definitely
that it's
could
a
have.
toy
Yeah,
company. It's like I like when like he has to go, to show and tell, like bring your parent or whatever day, whatever it's called. Uh
yeah, something like that.
like parent career day or whatever it is. And like the dad comes in and tries to explain that he's like from a toy company, but the kid is like, no, he's Santa Claus. Like,
It's like, okay, okay,
like, no,
Charlie,
I'm
no,
like
just
Santa
Santa.
Claus.
No, he's Santa Claus, guys.
Yeah.
And then one kid makes a very valid point. So if I want to be Santa one day, I just have to push you off a roof.
Yeah, that made me
Very
laugh.
valid point. It's like, yeah, pretty much that's all. That's what it takes in this universe to become Santa. You just to kill the other one.
Yeah, and then what did the teacher had a line that made me laugh. I can't remember what it was though.
It's probably
Uh
like Charlie says elves, and she's like, they're not elves, Charlie. They're little people. Was it that?
oh yeah,
Because
something like that.
that's
But
like the
then
only line she really has.
she said something else that just maybe it was just like a delivery or something where she seemed kind of like exasperated by like the kids, just
Oh,
like kind of like yeah, whatever.
it's
I don't
Charlie gonna be
know.
like, no, they really are elves, and she's like, whatever, honey. It's
Yeah,
probably that
yeah,
part.
something like that. It just made me
Yeah, she goes
laugh.
like, well, whatever, honey.
uh, yeah, I don't know. There really isn't much of a plot, so it's like we're just kind of talking about scenes.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
what we've talked about is pretty much most of the movie.
yeah, and I did feel like it dragged a bit. Um, I wish there was a little bit more. I don't know, just something else going on, I guess. But it's not like
Yeah,
it's not bad or anything.
yeah, because like it's definitely weird in terms of its pacing because like when he like kind of finally accepts being Santa, it's like there's only like 20 minutes of the movie left or something like that. So like that kind of like last third is him like he becomes Santa and everything. Then he goes like he delivers presents and then he I no, I think actually before that he goes and he like visits Charlie and he basically like it's kind of kidnapping Charlie because like they get a restraining order against him. So he shows up like I don't think he like intended to just take Charlie, he wanted to say goodbye, but it's like Charlie just asks like, "Can I go with you?" and he just takes him. So like,
Yeah, see, and then there's certain things that I kind of felt were like felt more forced than they needed to be, or like you know them just accepting that like, oh, okay, Scott, you're Santa now, felt a little strange to me. Like they don't seem to have any kind of issue or question about it, or and
it's just like, "Oh, he's Santa now." Okay, cool.
yeah, and even things like in the scene, the boardroom scene where like they're pitching the toy tank and like they're like, oh, Santa's gonna drive the tank, and he's like, no, no, like Santa wouldn't drive a tank. He has to have a sleigh. It's like, okay, is that him saying that, or is that the Santa
Part of him.
overpowering him, kind of the possession or whatever
Yeah.
this is? Um, this idea would make a really funny like horror movie or something. I kept thinking that while watching the movie because I mean,
Your
obviously,
mind always goes to horror movies.
well, yeah, but it was like I did think of like The Fly, where it's like, okay, he gradually turns into the Fly, and it's like more horrific. Uh, but even like I think it could have been played more for dark comedy or something, or there's some like funny ideas, but it was like it did make certain things feel a little unclear to me as to like who like what is actually influencing why is he doing things, and why are other people just kind of accepting of him, and I don't know.
Mm.
Um but yeah, so like what happens in the end? It's like there's like a big chase where they're they're trying to catch Scott. Um,
Yeah, because he takes Charlie, so they think that he kidnaps. Well, he kind of does kidnap Charlie, like no joke. He,
yeah,
he pretty much does. Like takes him to the North Pole. So like they there's a warrant out for his arrest. So like the police are just like going to like anyone dressed as Santa and just arresting them, which pretty funny
that was
idea.
funny. Yeah,
Um, yeah, and then they actually get Scott, and then like elves have to come and break him out of jail, basically. So there's like
oh
a
yeah,
special squad of elves, I guess, just for like rescuing Santa. Which maybe there should have been one to like do something about him falling off roofs, but I think that's
yeah.
even
That
like
was
they
one.
keep having like a joke, like Scott, like when he gets to North Pole, he keeps asking, like, but what am I gonna do if I fall off a roof? He just like kind of keeps asking that over and over.
Yeah, and they just don't answer him at
Pretty
all.
much like, well then you're screwed, whatever.
Yeah,
But here,
it's like
like,
that
here,
happens.
this is so you won't get burned by chimneys. Like you have a fireproof suit, so that is taken care of at least.
Yeah, and it's like wait, he didn't before.
Yeah, I know. It's because he says like, "Oh, chimneys will no longer be a problem." It's like, well, what have you done for like the last 100+ years then about
Yeah,
chimneys?
uh, I do think I was gonna say that scene where he's like talking to them about that, and they're kind of upgrading his equipment and stuff, and he's kind of like getting involved and asking questions, and like like what if we can't. I mean, he's basically saying like, what about something to prevent me from falling off the roof? He keeps saying that, but it was like I wanted more scenes like that where he got more involved with being Santa, or like wanting to be Santa or something, or
Yeah, because he doesn't accept it towards like kind of the end of the movie. We don't get to see a lot of that, like him as Santa.
yeah. And but I did still feel like there needed to be moments where characters like you know kind of had like that there should have been a scene where Scott was like you know uh like kind of like says that he's ready to be Santa. Like I never felt like there was a moment like that.
Yeah,
Am I missing? Am I forgetting something? Or
the closest to that scene is probably like when he comes to say goodbye to Charlie. Charlie like tosses him the snow globe and just like, "Oh, you got to believe." And he looks at the snow globe and like a little Santa goes by in it, and then it's like you could see just by his expression, like, okay, he believes now, and that's kind of it. That's the
yeah,
closest we get to that, which is like it does its job, but yeah, it's like you kind of would like
I
to
didn't
see
quite feel it. I guess.
more. Yeah, I know because it doesn't feel like quite a satisfying payoff to it.
Yeah,
It's just like the whole movie, he's like trying to kind of fully accept it, and it's like, okay, that's kind of it. It definitely could have they could have done more with
yeah.
it, but it's like it works, but yeah, they could have had something a little bit more because then it's just like we don't see him again until like he's in the North Pole, and it's like okay, now he's kind of embraced the Santa role, but we didn't really get to see it too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just kind of like
yeah.
okay, now he's just in it, but we didn't get to like see that first moment of it.
I
That's
think
like
it's more like we didn't really get to feel it, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Like we kind
I
of
can
do
see.
see him change, but it doesn't like really make you feel it with him. I
Yeah,
think that's kind of my issue with the movie.
yeah, it could have been stronger in those regards for sure.
Yeah. Um I'm trying to think. I thought there was something I wanted to mention about the whole climax of the movie. Um Excuse me. I can't think of anything. Um
Yeah, there's not really much. Like the whole climax almost just feels like they got to break him out of jail. So the elves like kind of easily break him out of jail, and then he takes Charlie back to the ex-wife and Neil, and that's where he kind of reveals to them like, oh yeah, I'm Santa, and they believe it now.
yeah.
And yeah, that's really kind of it. Like
Yeah.
he finished. He's like he first. It's kind of weird because has to say bye to Charlie, like, oh, I got to finish with the deliveries and everything, got to say goodbye, and then he's back. He says like 10 minutes later to like take Charlie in the sleigh, and that's
Yeah.
how the movie ends. It's like, okay, why do we need to get that like sad goodbye if he just comes back 10 minutes later? Whatever. Yeah, whatever. And that's kind of like how the movie ends.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, there's not really like a whole lot to say there.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's like a fairly enjoyable movie. It's a very it, like plays things very safe. I think.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of wanted more. I don't know. I, I I needed more like kind of memorable stuff to happen, or uh just more emotion, you know?
Yeah, could have used a lot more stuff like that. Um, yeah, I really loved this movie as a kid. As an adult, it's not anything that special or amazing, but I do have like a lot of nostalgia for it, and I think it's worth watching. But I don't think it's like as good as Elf. Just comparing it to the last movie I picked, it's not. Its
Yeah.
characters aren't as good. Its humor is not as good. Its visuals aren't as good. Its North Pole isn't as good. So it's definitely like I've just compared to like the movie I chose before. It's not as strong. It's not stronger than Elf like in any of those regards. But yeah, if you grew up with the movie, I still think it's a pretty fun movie. I still like this version of Santa Claus. I like Tim Allen's version of Santa Claus. Um, yeah, it's just like a fun, safe Christmas movie, but nothing too outstanding about it. Maybe like when it came out back in the 90s, it stood out a little bit more, but not so much now.
Maybe. Um yeah, I don't know.
So yeah,
Uh
that's kind of all I really got to say.
yeah, I don't have much else to say either. I thought it was okay. Um Again, not a bad movie or anything,
Yeah,
but I was a little like,
I think the sequel does improve upon some things. Like I think the sequel's got like some stronger, a little bit more memorable characters, some more kind of memorable moments. It goes like a little bit. It does a lot more like creative stuff with the Santa magic and stuff like that. So if you just liked the first one, I would probably recommend the sequel because I think it's pretty solid. I'm not a huge fan of the third one, like I said before, but it's been a while since I've seen the third one. The third one just felt, I remember being pretty rushed. Um,
hmm.
but yeah, it's I just kind of like average movie.
Yeah. So what would you rate it?
I'd probably give it like a 2.5. Like it's just to me like a pretty like average movie, but I have enough like nostalgia for it where I do enjoy it, and I do enjoy watching it every year. And yeah, I think it's just kind of like average Christmas movie though.
Yeah, I'm like kind of close to that. I'd give it a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
fair.
yeah, I
It's just kind of
I don't
average.
know.
It doesn't have like a lot.
Yeah,
Its characters don't really stand out too much. The humor doesn't like really stand out too much, and it's it really just should have been brighter, a little bit more vibrant.
yeah.
They could have
Again, I
done
don't know
like a
if
little bit
that's
more
like
with it.
a. I wonder if that's like a restoration thing, or maybe like Disney
Yeah, I don't
Plus's
know.
streaming,
No, I think
because it was kind of like
I think
it looked
like
weird.
I think that it's always been kind of like the colors have been kind of muted and washed out. I don't remember this movie ever looking bright and vibrant,
Okay, yeah.
but the sequels are. So,
Yeah. So that's
yeah,
that's
that's
it
it.
for the Santa Claus. Um, so I want to check real quick because the movie that I wanted to recommend um, was Krampus, but I don't think that it's really available to watch for like free on anything. It's on like Peacock, but I didn't really want to get a subscription to Peacock just for this. So I thought, why not pick a movie that kind of inspired Krampus? in a way, and is another fun Christmas monster movie that I really like. And it's one that apparently scared you as a kid. Um,
It
so I
did.
thought it might be. I
Terrified
thought it'd
me.
be fun to talk about this. Gremlins, uh, the kind of Christmas horror classic, I guess, cult classic. Um, I think it's a really fun movie. I think there's a lot to talk about it with it,
It'll be
and
interesting for me. I haven't seen this movie since I was a kid because it terrified me. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to watch again.
I'm really wondering, like, because I think I mentioned this before at some point, and but like Ernest Scared Stupid was like my childhood kind of trauma movie that like scared me as a kid. Uh, and like I watched it again a couple years ago, and I was like, oh, no, I get it. I get why it scared me. I'm wondering, like, and like it's not like it scared me as an adult, but I was like, oh, okay, I totally as a kid I understand why this scared me. I'm wondering if it's going to be like that for you, or if you're going to be like, what was I, a baby? Like what? Like what?
Probably.
I wonder what you're going to think, because
Yeah. Should be
it
interesting.
is it is like technically a horror movie. It is like, monsters and stuff, but um, it's, I think it's like I want to say it's produced by Spielberg. I don't remember, but we'll get into that next time when we talk about Gremlins, and then I think for the next week after that, we'll talk about Gremlins 2. Because I've never seen Gremlins 2 actually, and I've heard it's maybe even better than the first one. So I'm really curious to watch it.
Huh? Interesting.
So I figured, yeah, let's do Gremlins and Gremlins 2. Um, so yeah, that's it for this week. We'll see you next time. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and have a good one. Bye.
Peace.